Welcome to Rugby Lives Farmers Edition with Cubitt House Pubs.
I was a rugby player, I was a farmer. You still play in front of 60, 70,000 people, but you go back and work on the farm and deliver shit to somebody's garden. You know what I mean? I remember delivering some manure to a lady's garden and she says to me, she goes, "Are you the rugby player?" I went, "Yeah." "Where do you want your poo delivered?" Minutes ago, Paul Carozza goes round somebody, me to beat, caught him, pulled him down. Whistle goes, David Soul picks me up and just goes, shakes his head and looks at me and goes, at the time you go, "I don't care about that, I just want to get my prostate out. I just want to get the cancer out." And then when you get it out, you think, I actually do quite fancy getting a hard on. You know what I mean? You sort of like, maybe it is important.
And it's going to be a score for Kenny Logan. Logan the scorer.
Hi Kenny, welcome to Rugby Lives, our Farmers Edition. How's life been? What have you been up to?
I've been enjoying the Six Nations. Bit of a bad start, but it's been good.
It's turned the corner a little bit. It's amazing how quickly it changes.
It's funny at the start of the Six Nations that everybody's going, "Oh well," but England, France, Grand Slam decider. And then after 2 games, England are hoping to beat Italy at the weekend, you know. So I think, I think the tournament's brilliant, right? It's a great tournament. And you get all the rugby fans coming out for it. It's brilliant, fantastic. It's been a good start for a neutral rugby fan. It's been a really exciting start.
Yeah. I mean, it's always very tricky, isn't it? Because Steve Borthwick's gone from, right, we're going to win the World Cup to, is he going to survive the end of the Six Nations? And it's same with like Gregor Townsend as well.
Yeah.
How quickly
Things can change.
it matters so much, doesn't it? How's it? It's amazing in this world when none of the sides have been the best in the world for a long time, how this Six Nation is still so massively important.
Well, it's a leveler, isn't it? You play your autumn games, and we obviously from a Scotland point of view lost to Argentina and lost to New Zealand, which they expect to lose to New Zealand, but maybe not Argentina. But the Scotland team actually expects to win these games now. And then England were the opposite. They're on this sort of big bounce of 10, 12 games going into the Six Nations. So, but the Six Nations are a real leveler, right? You've got the atmosphere. I mean, the atmosphere at Murrayfield against England was electric. It was incredible. But Scotland turned up and England didn't. You really would have expected England. I generally, the Ireland game, I thought Ireland are on a bit of a transition, through, because they don't understand what 10 they want to have yet. And you thought that this England team would have been very consistent. They would have had a huge response from the Scotland game, but I just did not see that coming. They're really shell-shocked.
Well, we're here to talk about farming to start off with. So tell me about growing up. So you grew up on a farm. That was your life. Tell me about that.
Best days of my life. Well, all I can remember is being outside with my dad and my cousins, brothers. We had a dairy farm with 120 cows milking, with arable, all cousins were linked to each other. The farms were all buttoned to each other, so we'd do the silage together, we'd do the hay together. We all worked together, shared each other's machinery. We used to go around the farms, and it was probably adding up to about 1,000 acres, maybe 1,500 acres. I don't know, maybe around about 1,300 acres, all the 4 or 5 farms. So I just loved every minute of it, and at school, I struggled at school, so that was my release. I was dyslexic and ADHD, so I really struggled at school. So my school life was really hard, and where I got my sort of sense of belonging was being with the animals, or being with the soil, or tractors, machinery, fixing things. So I enjoyed every minute of it, and obviously it moved on really fast as my sort of rugby career went on, and I would run home from school to get on the baler or get on the combine or sit in a tractor with my cousin and just have the banter. I used to love the sunny nights and sitting on the end of the tractor having your sandwiches and pieces before you went on again for another 2 or 3 hours through the evening. So yeah, it was good times. And obviously my rugby club was still in County Rugby Club, so I was only 3 or 4 miles from there. So many nights I'd be driving the tractor to the training and driving back.
Was there a lot of other people who presumably worked?
Quite a lot of farmers. We probably about 4 or 5 farmers in the team.
Yeah.
And there would be a lot of people coming in smelling of shit or smelling of oil who just come straight off a tractor, trained, stuff back on the field again. So it was good fun. It was busy. You didn't think about anything else apart from, you knew what you had to do. You got on and did it. I mean, my dad we used to show Holstein Friesians, well, British Friesians at this time, then it went to Holstein Friesians. So my dad won the Highlander Royal, Great Yorkshire. So he won a lot of shows. He was a well-known judge around Europe and the world, really. chuds, a lot of big shows.
What are they
in the
looking
world.
for in a cow when you go to? I've been to Devon County Show. We used to do every
Well,
year. But
I'm
what
only
does it
looking
look
at
like?
dairy cow. You need a sharp shoulder, a nice top line, and you need, obviously udder to have a nice smooth through its into its tummy, showing the veins, the milk veins, and obviously the teats need to be set in the right direction. But I showed cows, Highland Show, Royal Show, with my dad. You did Young Stocksman of the Year in London.
Yeah.
So I did all that. I mean, I loved it all, and obviously, as I was doing all that, I was a amateur rugby player, right?
Yeah.
So rugby was just something you could do at the weekend. I trained twice a week, but I also trained during the week. I used to have, so as I got older, sort of like getting 15, 16, school was obviously, I left school with no qualifications whatsoever.
Did they identify the dyslexia?
I was called stupid.
Okay.
So I was a stupid.
That was their
one.
identification.
Yeah, that was my identification. One teacher, who's Deirdre Wilson, who's I know her son well. He works in London now, actually. She identified that I was dyslexic.
Okay.
And my PE teacher, Norrie Berner, he put his hand around me a little bit because he realised that I was struggling. But you could see something in a sport. I was good at football. I was a good runner. I was good at rugby. I was good at sport in general. So because you were quick, you could get away with a lot of things. You could shine out amongst everybody else. And he had looked after me. So there was two teachers that had my back. But yeah, I was just told I was thick and stupid. That you're just going to be a farmer. Don't worry about it. And it was a wee bit, and I wanted to be more than that. And it was, I would go to school a bit like rugby. You go there to trying to improve every time you went, and generally every day I thought, today I'm going to read. It's going to happen today. I must have believed that a million times.
I mean, at least you had the sport.
Yeah, the sport was a saviour.
Because it sounds like as a result that everyone was just saying, well, it's okay, he's good at sport, he's got the farming. Because I can imagine those people who
But in those days, there's no, the only thing you were thinking about there, professional footballer, if you were going to be good at sport, because there's only like athletics and rugby, there was no money.
Did you have trials? Because I read that you had
I
trials.
had trials for Dundee United and Hearts, and I didn't go to the Hearts one because I was playing rugby, and the guy phoned me up and said, right, you've gone through to the next level. And I said, look, I'm thinking about giving it up. He went, what? I said, look, I'm going to be a rugby player. He went, oh no, mate, son, you're really good for goalkeeper. You should be like. And I was like, no, I'm going to play rugby. And that was that. And I went to the other one. I got through the next round, and then just sort of like said, right, I was 14 at the time, too much going on.
Yeah.
So I decided to play rugby, and then
How did you make that decision? Because like rugby's not professional at this
my
point.
cousins were all rugby players, and I went to rugby club, and I liked the camaraderie of it all, and I was in my local. I just liked it. It was just I liked the physicality.
But job-wise, you must have been thinking.
I wasn't thinking about job. I was thinking about what I loved. Right.
Okay.
So I didn't, and I loved being on the farm, and I was always going to be on the farm. When I was 16, when I was 14, I used to sell logs. So I said to my dad, what are you doing with all these trees? He said to me, he said, I'm just leaving them. I said, can I have them? He said, what are you going to do with them? I said, I'm going to go and sell some logs. He's going to buy the logs. So I used to work at night, axing them all, got 100 bags. And the weekend, I'd go and try and get rid of them. I'd get rid of 100 bags, £1 a bag.
Yeah.
So I'd have £100. And then I'd pay the tractorman £10 to take me around all I'd stand at the back of the trailer, take them around all the houses. I did that. And I remember we had the thing when we were growing up, whatever you could save up, my dad would double.
Okay.
So my dad ended up having to give me £5,000 when I was 18.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Whatever you can save up, I'll double. So anyway, he was like, prove it. I was like that. He goes, what are you going to do with that? So when I buy a car for free, and I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest. So I was quite sort of like, it raised me entrepreneur at that age in my life. I was always thinking, what can I do different? My brain was always like, how can we do this different? How can we do that differently? So I quite liked the environment. And then obviously rugby was starting to, when I got my first call up, I was only like 19. And then I turned 20, and then I played for Scotland.
How did you get recognised? When did you think this could actually go to that sort of level?
So I was playing for Scottish under 18s, under 19s. And then we were playing at Murrayfield against under 19. Our under 19 team was really good. Gregor Townsend, Tom Smith, some great players. And 3 or 4 other guys like Stuart Campbell, who played for Scotland, and a whole lot of other players who became professional rugby players, Mark McKenzie. And what basically happened was I was walking on to Murrayfield back pitches, and there was a touch judge. I can't remember his name. I'm really bad. I can remember his face, but his name. And he said to me, mate, if you play well today, you could get in that tour to Australia. So I immediately turned around and goes, what, the under-19s going to Australia? And he went, no, the national team. I went, what? And I had a stormer. I just had an unbelievable game. And then that night I'm at home, and there's a local pub called the Birds and the Bees, and they must have phoned my mum, and then my mum said, this is where he is, and they phoned the Birds and the Bees and had the selection that night, because the Scotland squad were select.
And you were 18?
I was 19 at the time. And the Scotland squad, big squad, were watching this game and then going to do selection.
Wow.
And Greg and I both played well. Suddenly, I got a phone call saying, are you available to go to Australia? I was like, yeah, well, when we go? And he went, no, we need to ask for availability first. Yeah. I said, yeah, I'm available. And then about 4 weeks later, it was actually Graham Law phoned me up. Somebody said to me, you need to keep your phone by you. And we didn't have mobile phones in those days, but my brother had a big, big car phone. It was like the side of a briefcase.
Like and you see in Bred.
Yeah, I was working at the tractor, so I said, can I have it for the day? And then I got a phone call, and those were the days that you either got teletext or you waited for a letter, and my post didn't come till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So some players are known already, and nobody's connecting each other. So I got a phone call from Graham Long, goes, what's your reaction? I went, what about? Because I didn't expect him to tell me. He goes, you're going to Australia. I was like, what? And then that was it. And then, I was, my dad was pretty ill. He had cancer of the pancreas. So sadly, my dad actually did see me play for Scotland, but he died like 4 or 5 months after. And then that's when my life really changed, because I was a rugby player, not the farmer. I was a rugby player, I was a farmer, but I was, still playing in front of 60, 70,000 people, but you go back and work on the farm and deliver shit to somebody's garden. I remember delivering some manure to a lady's garden, and she says to me, she goes, are you the rugby player? I went, yeah. Where do you want your poo delivered? Tipping this 5-ton of shit, horse, cow shit in their garden for all their plants. So it was a weird time, and the Australia trip was my best ever trip, because I went there thinking, right, how do I get in this team? How do I get in the team?
Well, tell me about the players that were there. Who was like...
So Gavin Hastings, Ivan Tuchel, Craig Chalmers, Sean Lanine, Scott Hastings, David Soul.
Legends. Like ones who were involved with...
Yeah, Grand Slammers.
They were at the Grand Slam.
Yeah, all the Grand Slammers. And I'm thinking, how do I get in this team?
Yeah.
So I played the first game and played all right. So I played the first Wednesday game, played all right. It was my first game with Scotland, the touring team. And following game, Peter Dodds was his last tour. So he was a Grand Slam winner, Triple Crown, double Grand Slam winner, I think. Yep. And he was at fullback, and Gavin was playing, he was on the bench, and he got injured training. So I was on the bench, but those are the days you wouldn't get on the pitch. You didn't go on the pitch.
Yeah.
But just to be on the bench, right? And my club, Stirling County, nobody had ever been capped for Stirling, so I was the first cap from that tour. So Gavin Hastings gets this massive cut on his head, sliced his head open, pushed on, 35 minutes to go. And Michael Liner, first thing, boof, puts this bomb up, catch the bomb, beat the first guy, and I launched this spiral. And it was one of these launches, it just took off my foot. I went, fucking hell. It just took off. And I remember 2 or 3 players looking back going, some punt, right? And then I was just everything, my adrenaline was flying, and my hair was stuck up an end. It felt like it was on spikes for the whole second half. A couple of good runs, a couple of good kicks. And there was a moment, it was 16-0. There was a guy called Paul Carrozza, winger. So I think Campese is in the other wing. No, he wasn't in the other wing. Paul Carrozza, Timmy Horn, Walter Little.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Incredible.
Like Queensland Reds. And minute to go, Paul Carrozza goes round somebody, me to beat. So I was like, old school, if you're going to beat me, you're going to have to skin me.
Yeah.
So I gave him the outside, caught him, pulled him down, whistle goes. It was the first time when David Soul picks me up and just goes, shakes his head and looks at me and goes. And then literally after that, my tour changed. Yeah, suddenly I was in the Wednesday team again because I thought Gavin would be fit. So I ended up playing 8 games out of the 9 games. And the game I didn't play was the first test, which I should have been starting. No, I should have. I was on the bench for the first test, but I didn't go on. And then I was in for the second test. And the second test, put Tony Stanger out.
Yeah.
And what happened was I was in the team room, and it was the days that you just pick up. Team manager was sit and go at 15, Gavin Hastings, captain. And at 14, Kenny Logan. I went, yes! No, and then next to me was Tony Stanger. He wasn't told he was dropped. You found out there. You didn't get told, look, by the way, you're not in the team. Now you would probably say, like, you're not in. You know the team now, right?
Yeah.
In those days of in and out, nobody really knew.
So you're unable to be cool.
Yeah, so I was sort of over pumped, and I didn't know who else was in the team. And then, interestingly, so David Soul was a farmer, right? He was a grain merchant.
Okay.
And I really like David Soul. I mean, I've got a lot of respect for him. He was a hard man to read, and I was quite loud and in your face a little bit and chatting and always in people's heads, or like, you know, wouldn't stop. I think I was very excitable. I was very in your face. I was very much, come on, I want more. I want to learn.
Yeah.
And I want to be the best. I want to try. Like when I went in that tour, it was like, how do I get in that team? I don't want to be. We were seen as Greg and I were seen to be going to get experience.
Yeah.
To be the future. I was like, I want to do it now. I want to be. This is the bit I want. And bizarrely, what happened was Gavin Hastings got injured in training, so I then went to fullback, and then Tony did come in. But one of the things that happened in that day, I'll never forget. So everybody's coming up to me, every player going, well done, not apart from one person. David Soul never said a word to me. I'm standing there thinking, this is odd. Like, he's the captain, and he said a word to me. And then we're lining up, but it was at a school, so all the kids around the school was a team run on the Friday. And David Soul comes up just before the kickoff. They start the training session, he walks straight towards me on my own. And they told me why I was there and why I deserved to be there. And it was a moment that I'll never forget, because it was a special moment, because he waited for everyone to die down and wanted to come and speak to me on his own, rather than, you know, so it was a real good moment. And then after that, obviously, you know, the following year was on the bench, and then I got in the team at the end of 93, and then, you know, rugby then starts to 95 World Cup, and then professionalism come along.
Because at this point, you're just presuming you're going back to work on the farm.
Yeah, I'm a farmer, yeah.
So what point?
50 quid a day.
If the game turns professional, and then the first there was a year or so later, wasn't it, when the game actually? So your side of 96, 97, that was the first professional.
Yeah, it was the first professional year, and so I was in quite a different position, because Scottish Rugby Union were giving out contracts 20, 30, 50. That was the contracts, and 50 was a player that was established or in the team. They would think is a. So I remember coming out the room, and they said, right, you're 50 grand, you need to start next week. I said, well, I've got 100 cows, man. Can't just leave them. Well, you need to start immediately. And I said, well, I can't start immediately. I've got like, my brother and I were splitting the farm up anyway at that time. So I was on the verge of starting to sell the dairy off and all that sort of stuff, and make it a bit easier for me, because the game was going professional. I was only 22 or 23 at the time. So I knew that, you know, I've got potential for 10 years of rugby in me. So I then told the SRU that, look, I can't sign a contract, because, well, you need to sign it. And then it went on. They said, look, if you don't sign it, you know, and then there was loads of rumours about me leaving to go to England, and the media, Amazon, what I hadn't signed, and Doddy had already gone, but Doddy had gone and Gary had gone. They'd gone well before. They'd almost gone before it was professional a little bit. They were one of the first two to go. So they were already gone. And Gregor and people like that were already at Northampton or down in England. And I said to Jim, look, I can't make a decision, because I don't know where I'm going to be with my farm, and I've got to buy my brothers out. I just don't know where I am financially. And then I was sort of told, take it or leave it. And I was like, well, I have to leave it, because I can't make that decision at the moment. I've got to do this bit first. So there was a wee bit of pressure on me. And then I had sort of like Saracens, Quins, and I went to Newcastle to see Rob Andrew.
A lot of the Scots. Well, Gary went there.
Yeah, Gary was there. Yeah,
was there.
And Doddy was there. Now I was obviously quite a young lad. Never left home really. I was a farmer boy. You know, I mean, never. For me to go to London was like, what the hell? Yeah. It's a long way, and it's nobody. I don't know anybody. And then I suppose the big thing when I went to Newcastle, they said, well, you got to come now. I said, I need 2 or 3 months to get my farm sorted out, and then I can come. No, you need to come now. You need to come now. We need you from like 2 weeks' time or a week's time. And then Nigel Melba phoned me up. A guy called Malcolm Sinclair was the team manager, kit man. He phoned me up with a Scottish guy and said, do you want to come to Wasps? And I was like, And then I was looking at the Wasps team. I knew Delalio because I played against him at under-19s with Scotland against England. And then I saw that, and I knew Damien Cronin. So I knew there's some Scottish guys there. And then, so I went down, saw him, and thinking, and looking around and watched the trainer, thinking, my God, this is like a different level.
Yeah.
I was thinking, and then so I really was quite, I got back in and they offered me like a package of about 150 grand for the year.
It's funny how they just made numbers up, didn't they? Like,
So I had an argument with Nigel Mellor recently because he said he wasn't on that, but I was, because I got 120, and then there was about another 30 grand of win bonuses because we had win bonuses in those days. So, and then when I left, I was always told, like, you know, I sort of got an ultimatum: if you leave, you'll never play for Scotland again. I was like, oh God. But I sort of went, oh, you know what? If I'm playing well, they have to pick me. If I'm playing shit, they won't pick me. So I went, and it was the best thing I did for me and for my career, because I played with some of the best players in the world. We won Heineken Cups, Premierships, Tetley Bitter Cups, European Cups. So we won a lot of trophies. We had a great time, great bunch of lads. And then on my debut, I scored 5 tries, right, at home debut.
Who was that against?
At Oral. I came off the bench to play against Gloucester. No, that was the following week, actually. No, I came off the bench, and then I played my first home game at Sudbury, the last game they played there, and scored 5 tries, thinking, my God, this is incredible. And then I went through every week scoring 1 or 2. I had a real good scalp at it. And then that was it. That was me. And the other interesting thing with Wasps was they said I could come down Thursday, train Friday, play Saturday, go home Sunday, till the end of the season. But I had to keep myself.
Was this 95, 96 or 96?
95, 96, 97.
So that was the year you won the league, first professional one, and you're basically doing 4 days.
Yeah. But so getting back to my farming, so what I used to do at home, well before I was professional, so I was maybe about 16, 17, I used to have 56ers placed around my farm, 56 kgs.
Okay.
Right, so I have 2 of them. I had a 56 and a 25, 2 25s.
Yeah.
So I'd place them, and every time I walked past it, I'd do 10 squats. Right? So sometimes I'd do 50, 60, and maybe go past maybe 100 squats in a day, because I'm going that way, and I think I'll do a leg day, so I'll just go past. So I had this rule, I couldn't, and there was another bit I had to sprint. So I used to wear trainers quite a lot.
Yeah.
The farmers, why are you wearing trainers? Because I've got to sprint down the back shed. So I used to use it, and then when I was doing the grain time or hay time, I'd go in the back of the baler and I'd be shifting the bales as fast as I can. So I used farming as a part of my strength.
Yeah.
And then so when I got to training, I was fit.
Yeah.
I was naturally fit.
Yeah.
And I trained, I was moving round bales. People would see me waiting for the combine, they'd see these bales going like that. Because I was just doing things. I'd jump off and do 10 and jump at the tractor, jump off, do 10. Yeah. So I did loads of stuff like that because I knew that I didn't have the time to because farming is hard work, right? You do a lot of time, you're working a lot, and there's not a lot of free time. So I knew that I had to do stuff in my day. So my legs were just getting bigger and bigger and bigger with just doing squat. And we used to have this shed where we used to have massive beet pulp bags, big 20, maybe 50 kg bags. And you had to go and you had to squat down to get under the shed. I mean, stupid now. Why don't we just put it in the corner of the shed? But my dad used to make us put them in there because that's where and there was, ridiculous. There's a room like this and you're ducking down. So, but there'd be like 250 bags and there's 2 of us. And at the end of it, your legs are blowing. So I did all these things that you see people now doing, crouch squats. Yeah. So, and that gave me, and then the following year, obviously, rugby goes professional, right? Yeah. As in, like, we're all fully professional. I'm fully professional. I'm every day. And that was the start of the journey.
What do you look back on those trainings from those early days of professionalism? Because obviously, people didn't really know what they're doing. I've had a few conversations where they weren't sure. I think, they almost, I had Lawrence Delay said he sat down with Nigel Mellor and they just work out, what are we going to do? Yeah. What does that look like? How much contact? What are your memories of early sessions? And
I remember once we had to do 24 150s.
Right, okay.
With a jog back recovery to get back, and you had to get back in 30 seconds. We did 24 on it, and we finished that session straight into do an hour of weights, right? Jeez. With no breaks. Yeah. And then players were getting broken. Then they changed that, and then we had, then they had the situation. You start at 9 o'clock. Yeah. And then the boys would go out on Friday and a Wednesday night. Yeah. Because they were starting, so then we moved it down to like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock to stop that, and then we were finished by 12. And then and as more professional we got, it was like you do your weights, you have proper recovery, do your rugby session, proper recovery, do your skill sessions, and then things that I think one of the reasons we were quite good, I think at that time with a lot of young players, wasn't many people married, so one or two, were really tight, and we all worked really hard for each other, and the competition between each other was really intense. Like you had Rob Henderson, Delali, a lot of internationalists. So we're constantly pushing each other. You know, we're constantly putting flags in the sand, going, right, who can beat this, who can beat that. So there was a real competitiveness within us. But also some of the sessions where, you know, as you see it now, there's not a lot of contact now, but back in the day, you could play a Monday, Tuesday was like a game day. Like you kept them living daylights at each other. Different from me being a winger, because I'd be like, I'm not getting involved in this. Because I knew that I just need to keep myself sharp. I didn't need to do, but the forwards needed it, and then you needed it too, because you got a little, not soft, but you needed the contact. You needed that feeling being part of it all. So it was some of it. I mean, some days it was massive fights, like a proper brawl. Like just banging each other.
Was there a different generation when you arrived? Because the side you left was very different to the side you arrived with. It was almost two different generations there.
Yeah, I mean, well, to be honest with you, the side that I arrived with was, you know, like Paul Volley and Lawrence Delalio, Alex King, Gomerso, Friday, Josh Lucy was there, Sammy Shaw was coming. So we built a really good team. As I left, there were still the core were still there, like Lawrence was still there, Will Green was still there, the prop. The likes of Paul Volley he'd gone to Quins maybe at the time. Shawsy was still there, Alex King was still there. So there's quite a core, but they'd brought in the likes of Rob Howley, they brought in the likes of Ian Jones, who had players that said they were done and they came to us and thrived. Craig Dowd, the exact same, Phil Vickery. So players that people thought they were done and they came back and totally reinvented themselves. I think Phil after that was back to be England captain. He was outstanding. So we had a good core of the team, and there was a lot of, we never really. And then I remember they brought Matt Dawson. I'd left by then, but everybody thought he wouldn't fit in, but he fitted in really well. I think he enjoyed his time at Wasps. I think probably very memorable times at Wasps. But Wasps was being like a club that it took a lot of strays in a little bit. It took a lot of punts on people. The big names.
You got some big characters there. You like your Haskell, Cipriani.
Yeah.
What were they like? Because you'd have known them when they were young coming through.
I'll never forget when Hask turned up first day. Came in, we were all sitting just watching this young guy coming in. He walks up and goes, James Haskell, nice to meet you. He gave us a business card. And we went, it was jameshaskell.com. So we just called him .com. And then he loved Lawrence Delalio, so we just called him Baby Law. I like Baby Law and he hated it. But he was then again, he then came through that next character role. And Cipriani, Cipriani was a genius. I mean, it's a shame that he's the nearest thing to Finn Russell would have, like England would have seen. He was a genius with the ball and how he did things. But he was very much like Cipriani. He was very much like Finn Russell.
Because it was also, Danny talks about sort of the role of sort of Sean Edwards and those guys. What was it like when those guys first came into the squad? Because you had Nigel Melville.
We had Nigel Melville, and then he left, and then we had Sean and Gats came in. I mean, that was Nigel Melville won the league with us, along with who's the forwards head coach? Smithy. Smithy was the head coach with Nigel. Rob Smith, he was great. And then we struggled the second season. And then he moved to be the academy guy, and then Sean came in along with Nigel. Sean brought intensity to us that made us into good people and into great rugby players. You bought into it where his mindset was. He's probably one of the best coaches I've ever had.
Because it wasn't a regular thing back then to have a league.
No, it was very new. He didn't know much about the game. He used to come up with some stupid ideas, and we go, that won't work, and then he'll go, but that'll work. And go, yeah, no, you're right, that will work. So he pushed the game and he pushed us. He made us think differently. He made us think, how do you become better than everybody else? How can you do things different? How can you be more aggressive? How can you have? We were the first ones to do that. The speed, like the line speed of getting out. Sort of like we used to always drift in defence or go up a little bit and drift. We were all blitzing, we're flying up and hitting people, and people just couldn't get their head around it. And then they were going, just stick over the top of them. And then we get interceptions. Then we don't put it over the top of them because they get interceptions and couldn't go anywhere. So he created this intensity to us, and then that intensity came into our attack. And then he used to have things like, he would say, if we got a turnover, that was like a try. So we would go so hard to get turnovers, and we would get like 5, 10 turnovers, and even if a knock on or so he created this real buzz, but he made defence enjoyable rather than being a sort of chore. But he was a great coach. And then when Gats came in, Gats took it to a new level of he knew how to get the best out of players. He knew how you got to know how you worked. He knew how to enjoy wins. He also knew if you don't win, you don't enjoy it, you don't get to enjoy it. So he created a really good environment with us for years, and that actually he got the Wasps culture that had been there, because if you go back to before I arrived, when Lawrence was there, everyone like Rob Andrews and they all went to Newcastle. Wasps were left with a skeleton
And
team.
Rob Andrew left by the time you got there.
Yeah, Rob Andrews left, and that was the following season. So this is our reaction to them leaving was winning the league, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously Batesy left, and so did Dean Ryan. So I was very lucky to be coached with the likes of Jim Telfer, Ian McGeechan, Sean Edwards, Gats, and Nigel and Smithy, right? And also some of the Scotland coaches I had, like John Rutherford was a great coach with us when we won the 99 and Five Nations. So I think some players go through lives and don't get great coaches. I mean, I had British Lions coaches, I had 4 of them, 5 of them.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, we were a lucky bunch and people wanted to come to Wasps, right? You know, it was a great club. Hopefully we'll be back soon. But you know, we were very lucky, and I think it also gave you, as a person, it gave you a lot of good grounding because we were very straight with each other and very honest.
So many characters, like, you know, it takes you 5 seconds and you even remember, oh, Trevor Leota was another one.
He was the hardest man ever alive. He could tackle. I mean, he would be sent off every week, but he could tackle. Some of his, I showed my son his tackles, and he's like, Jesus. And Trevor was brilliant, but we love Trevor. He's got a lot of love from every player and from all the fans. I mean, he was a fan's favourite, and he could party and he could play.
Was it all true about it? Because didn't he have to move in with Phil Greening or someone in order to?
No, I moved in with a fitness guy.
Fitness guy.
I moved in with
Sorry, yeah.
Who was it? It was Bobby, who was British Lions.
Yeah, British Lions. S&C.
Yeah, and he's at Racing. I think he's at now, or Toulon, Racing. And he stayed with them. And I remember Gats sitting in the team room next morning and said, right, yeah, what were you with, what were you doing last night, Bobby? Because looking after Trevor. Because what time did you go to bed? He went 9 o'clock. He was in the walkabout till 4 a.m. What? He'd put a ladder down from outside. So every night, seemingly, he thought he was upstairs sleeping. He was going out every night. So then he was a character. But that was the year we won the Heineken Cup, 2003, I think it was. Because Trevor was the star of the show that year. He was really impressive. Like, he was jumping out of the line, hitting spot. He was really good at just spotting somebody who's going to get the ball and absolutely destroying them.
Yeah. There's so many players who said they had their best years at Wasps.
Yeah.
There's so many great players who went on to other things, but there was something about it. It was almost like a grassroots club spirit or something that kind of kept them together, and not like, I don't know, especially if you've got Newcastle, who were kind of considered the mercenaries at the time.
Yeah, I also think when you're winning, right, you can go somewhere for more money and not win.
Yeah.
But like, I think we got paid well, but some players were coming because they wanted to win trophies. And they knew that if you went to Wasps, there's a huge chance. But if you went to, no disrespect, some other clubs, you weren't going to win in. Yeah. Wasps, Leicester, at the time, Saracens were the 2 clubs, 3 clubs who were sort of winning stuff. So I would think that players were certainly near the end of the career, like Rob Howley and Matt Dawson. I'm going to go there. It's a London club, a big club. They win things. Good crack.
Yeah.
There's a real, so you got to look at it sometimes and think, right, money's important, but you also, deep down your heart, you want to win stuff. There's a lot of players who have played Premiership rugby and international rugby and not really won much.
Yeah. How important was Delalio to that side? Because it just always feels like he's one of the constants there.
Well, I mean, the thing about Law was, forget about his rugby. His rugby was brilliant, right? He's one of the best rugby players England have had. His leadership, how he loved the whole build-up. He loved taking the pressure off the team, taking the pressure off you, but also putting the pressure on you. So he made you, you know, he wouldn't be scared to stand up in the team and goes, that's not fucking good enough.
Yeah.
Where maybe other captains wouldn't do that because he's a mate or doesn't want to upset him. But it was a very honesty box we were in. And he was a leader of men. If you went down a dark alleyway, the boys are behind him. I think, well, where are we going? It was always a good night. But I think, yeah, definitely people like him, people like Alex King, to be honest. You know, Kingy was somebody who was, for me, really intense when he played. When he was off the field, he was not intense at all. Him and I lived together for a while, but he wanted the best. You know, Sean brought things to us. Sean brought leaders amongst us.
Yeah.
So he made us leaders individually. And then if you want to step out and be a leader outside that, it was welcome.
Yeah.
You don't need to.
Yeah.
Right? So he was very good at making you the best you could be.
Yeah.
And he did it individually. I remember we're playing against England, and on the week before, he says to me, "Oh, Kenny, who you got this week?" I said, "Oh, England." "Who's your winger?" I said, "Oh, Josh." Josh was obviously the other winger for Wasps. He went, "Right, come on, outside." So we go outside, and he's got me running up and down the pitch. Tell me what Josh is bad at. This is what you should do to him. And then the next day, he's got Josh out, did the exact same on me, right? Because he wanted the best out of you both, right? And then we actually played against each other. We both actually played well. And Sean went, "He didn't let us down, lads. He didn't let us down." You know, so I've got utmost respect for Sean. I think he brings a different edge to a team that I've never seen before.
Mm. And when it started to come to, did you know you were going to be finishing up there? Had you planned? Because you went back to Scotland for a bit, didn't
Yeah,
you?
well, I knew I wouldn't get in the team. I knew I was 31, just going on 32. And I was like, and when I started playing rugby, I didn't play because of money or because I loved it and it went professional. It was a hobby. Suddenly somebody's going, right, your hobby's now professional, you get paid money. Like when I was in the farm, I was on $4,000 a year.
Jesus.
So I went from $4,000 to 100 or 150,
Yeah.
40, 150. So that's a big change, right? And I'm in London, living in Chelsea Harbour, thinking, this is how we roll. So I never did it for the money. So at the end, Gabby then was pregnant with the twins.
Had someone arrived that made you change your mind? Because there was,
So Voicey was there. Josh was still there. And I was in and out the team. And I'd retired from Scotland. And and then that season actually, so I retired from Scotland at 2003 World Cup, finished that season with Wasps. Gat said to me, look, and also because I had my sports marketing agency, I was also doing stuff for them in the marketing side.
Okay.
And I was getting paid commission to my marketing business from doing sponsorship deals. So my deal it looked bigger than it was, but it wasn't.
So you'd already paved the way for your post-rugby career.
I'd already started that when I was 26.
Okay.
I realised that I'm not going to waltz into a job. I need to create something myself. I need to be in charge of my own destiny. I can't do this without. I don't think anybody's going to employ me. I think it might be all right now, but back in the day, you're not really good at reading and writing. I'm good at this bit, but I'm not good at that bit. So, I've been with my business partner for 24 years now.
Oh wow.
So we've been together in business. We've gone 26 years, 27 years, 26 years. So I think, and it's not easy. It's hard out there. It's hard for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Some people are, I'm doing this. It's hard. It's hard work. You've got to work hard to make your money. And I think when I made that decision, I went to Glasgow. So Glasgow, basically, they offered me a testimonial. Scotland offered me a testimonial to come up. And Ian McGeechan was there, and they said, would you come up? And what mentor, what were the younger players? So I enjoyed that for that season. And the following season, I was 33. I probably could have stayed another year, but I'd be like Mr. Motivator, I wouldn't be playing as much. I didn't want to play anymore. My time was done. I was ready to go and ready to do something else. And also, Gabby, the twins are arriving, and I just wanted to spend more. I thought this is my opportunity to transition, get into like being with Gabby, being with the kids a bit longer, and enjoying that moment rather than being away a lot and traveling with the rugby and being very focused on rugby and not having the same focus. So I did the right thing. And when you get to you've got to be comfortable when you finish. I think the hardest thing when players finish, they either get told they're not good enough, which is hard when you've been good all your life, or proven, and you can't prove them wrong anymore because you're not good enough. And I went through a phase. It was after I retired 2003 World Cup. I retired in the following year. The Scotland team tried to get me back to play. It was when Matty Williams was there, and and he said, "Would you come back? We lack experience. There's no drive. We're lacking this." And he said, "Would you come back?" And I was like, "Oh God, would go to Australia." He said, "Like, we'll make you captain of the second team. You go as a sort of like helping these young players." And he said, "But I will pick you for the first team if you're playing well." And I was like, I got a little bit excited. I remember speaking to Brian Redpath and went, "Why are you doing that?" He said, "Because you'll go there and you'll have a shit game and you'll be dropped and you've got to live with that for the rest of your life." And I was like, fuck, never thought of that. And then I went, and actually the way I am, I know some players that I know really well who got dropped for Scotland and never got a chance to go out on their own terms. And that would eat me. It would still eat me now. If I was told that when I retired, I was glad I did it on my own terms because I felt that was the right thing for me.
And you'd won stuff. That was good. That's what helps, isn't it? When you've won and been part of such a generational side, like Wasps.
I think for me, we won 3 premierships. I won 3 premierships, Heineken Cup, European Champions Cup, 2 Tetley Betters, and then obviously winning some for Scotland is important because even like now you think how good the team is now. We still haven't really won. We haven't won a Triple Crown. We haven't won We've beat England, which I didn't do, but I'd rather win a tournament, But I think it's nice to win things, but I really enjoyed the journey. The journey was amazing, and it's also hard after rugby because you've got to go from being a rugby player into the world of business, and the transition is hard, right? And a lot of people find it hard, and we certainly for the younger generation now, you need to be thinking about that and think about what you are going to do sooner than later.
When did you meet Gabby? How did you meet her first?
I met her in London in '99.
Okay.
And that was the season we won the championship, and we won Tetley Betters. We were at Twickenham finals, and we were winning the 5 Nations. I think she thought that was normal. It was normal for Wasps, but it wasn't normal for Scotland.
Where did you? Was it at an event or?
I met her in a place called the K Bar in
Soho?
in Chelsea.
Oh, Chelsea. Okay.
Yeah, K Bar.
Okay. And you hit it off straight away?
Yeah. I met her and I was just like, really like this person. Then really quickly we were living together within about 6 months.
Did you know, were you a football fan? Did you know about her dad?
I knew she was. I knew who her dad was, yeah. I knew her dad probably more than she was. But I knew she was on Sky Sports. I knew she was football. So you knew who she was, of course you did.
Her dad was a legend. Like, even though
Absolute
legend. Obviously too young for the lead stuff, but even I remember that Wales team put together that Paul Bowden penalty miss is like iconic because that side was so good. And oh God, you wanted it for him as well because you knew what was he like? Because you must have what's it like when he's your father-in-law? Yeah,
I mean, I must admit when I first we'd go on holidays, like a golfing holiday, and I'm just back of the Six Nations winning a premiership, and he's the one getting all the pictures taken. And he was always laughing. He was, I haven't played for 30 years, Kenny. And he was a good character. And I think also sadly he passed this year, and you don't realise how much of a legend he was when people start telling you all the things he did that nobody ever knew about, and people get in contact with Gabby about things he did that we didn't know about. But his getting I think Rush and Hughes to play together was the biggest achievement, I think everybody says. But the Leeds United and the stories he used to have about football and what they used to do, and he was a character,
and
hard man.
And Gabby's stars continue to rise. She's been over the years as well. She's been such an amazing force across everything, breaking a lot of boundaries as well. How do you guys manage that? Because obviously she obviously was presenting when you met her as well.
Yeah.
Certainly, the trajectory has certainly gone massive.
Ever since she changed her name, it's gone crazy. I was joking. No, she's the most. Obviously, I see all the stuff that other people don't see. That she's constantly researching things. She knows her sport. She wants to have credibility is really important in that front. And actually, when you see the amount of work she puts in behind the scenes, it shows when she's on the TV. You know, she works hard.
At what point did you go from being a couple to being your Gabby's husband?
Recently. No, yeah. So I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered about being. I think there's one thing you've got to be when you retire. You've got to be comfortable where you are and what you want to be.
But perhaps one of the best positives from a negative was the cancer, because that you were able to, that story everyone read. So tell us a little bit about that and that experience, how that came to the fore.
Again, Gabby's podcast, she's got a podcast called The Midpoint. It's all about midlife and men and women. And I was listening to one about Davina McCall, and I came back and said to Gabby, if Davina McCall's going through all these things, what are men going through? Because like, what are we going through? And then she said, well, why don't you go get a wellman's test? I might get a wellman's test, and turned around and said, oh, your prostate's a little bit, PSA level's a bit high, you should get tested. So I then got 2 or 3 days later, I went to see a specialist, got tested, and they said, look, you've got cancer, but it's not doing anything. And we'll do a biopsy, did the biopsy, and they said, we're going to keep an eye on it. And then a year later, they said, you've got cancer, we need to remove your prostate. And that's when all that happened, you know, when you get told you've got cancer as a sort of, it hits you hard, right? Because you think about your kids, you think about your wife, think about, fucking hell, what happens next? I mean, am I going to be all right? Even though the guy said, oh, you know, I can't, they never say you're guaranteed to be all right, but you say, I think we'll get a hold of this. But then you're thinking, Jesus Christ. And then he said to me, like, 40% of your mates have got this, but they just don't know they've got it. And I'm like, wow.
Jesus Christ.
Like, who could have a high PSA?
Yeah.
Right, not that they've got prostate cancer with a high PSA, but it might never do anything. So I could have a reasonably high PSA for the next 20 years.
Yeah, never noticed.
Never, right? But you've got, when it starts to move, that's the dial. So mine started to move, so took it out, had the operation. It's not the greatest operation in the world, but I had that. And then within sort of 3 or 4 months, I'm all back to normal, which is the thing you want to be. Certainly is you know, the biggest thing for a man going through the operation is erectile dysfunction, right? Which people don't want to talk about. And I've been very public about it, because if you don't talk about it, you know, men do need to talk about it. And I think at the time you go, I don't care about that. I just want to get my prostate out. I just want to get the cancer out. And then when you get it out, you think, I actually do quite fancy getting a hard on. You know what I mean? You sort of like, maybe it is important. So that took time, right? And then obviously I was very lucky, and some people aren't lucky. Some people do tend to, they don't recover from it. But a lot of people who don't have cancer have the same problem, right? So you don't have to go through that to have that process. But, you know, it was a moment that I also got a chance to use the platform you had over the years to tell the story that can help other people. So that was important.
It's incredible. And it's like all the different things, I think, those stories. What was the reaction to, like, because you still get together with a few Wasps guys. What do they say when you get together? It's like, because there's so much, you're giving them so much ammunition. How do they?
Well, to be honest with you, you know what? A lot of the boys just give me a big hug.
Yeah.
So well done, mate.
Yeah.
And then they'll sit down individually and go, what happened?
Yeah.
Like, did you get a finger up your bum? I went, yeah, but not until I did the blood test. Do I need that first? Just get a blood test.
Yeah.
And the one thing I would say is that you people you go, I had a blood test 2 years ago. It's every year you need it.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to go every year. It's like an MOT.
Yeah.
It's more important than your MOT.
Yeah. It's hard to get people into that mindset.
It's hard to get them into that mindset. And
because no one likes blood tests, and then everyone, it's natural.
I mean, the one thing I would say about COVID, people were like swiping themselves, sending it off. So we have got a bit more used to doing things on their own and sending it off. We're not doing a blood test, but going to get a blood test now. And I would say now compared to maybe 10 years ago, we think about health totally differently now.
Yeah.
You know, we're looking at wellness. Wellness is a massive part of that midlife boom of how to get, you know, I've done all the things, stupid things when I was younger, and now I want to live longer. I want to be with my kids. And I think that was the one thing for me. What happens if it's not successful? But I went on a very journey of my rugby career, went on positive. Didn't tell MD. My kids knew, some friends knew, didn't tell my mum, because my mum's 94, she didn't need to, she'd just worry about it. I didn't tell, I think I might have told my brothers to say, go and get tested, and my cousins, But I kept it quiet because I wanted to get through the process. I didn't want people to go, "You all right?" Because I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to mention it. But now they go, "Oh, well done," or "Everything good yet?" Fine.
Did you tell the kids?
Well, so interestingly, I did tell the kids, but my daughter came into my office as I was sort of like emotionally with Gabby, because we just, you know, we were on a Zoom getting told you got cancer. So that was like,
horrendous.
not great. But I was like, how bad is it? What do we do? And he was going, right, these are the 3 options: brachytherapy, take it out, or radiotherapy. I was like, what would you do? Take it out. Well, let's do it then. You need to think about it. And I want to do it. I want to get it out. I want to get it out of my body. So my mindset was really clear.
So you were able to focus in and get methodical about it.
Yeah, I was going like, we're getting it out, and I'm doing this. I'm going to do my training. I'm going to and I said to him, like, what can I do to sit? He says, nothing about diet. It's one of these things. This happens with men. I said, right, fine. And I just stayed on that very focused rugby environment of being really positive, really positive, really positive. I did have some moments where I was negative, but I soon came out of them by, you know, either talking to Gabby or her being negative a little bit, and me going, come on, stay on track. Let's keep the mindset the same. So it was very much being very focused, and what I hadn't done from like that, so it's probably played rugby a little bit.
It feels like it's till you turned it into positive.
Definitely. Yeah, I think the fact that, you know, I'm still here and everything seems to be all right, and you know, I can tell people about it, and you know, the amount of people that came to me and said, I've just been tested, I'm going in next week for a biopsy, and then a month later goes, I'm getting it out next week. Thanks very much for highlighting it. So there's a lot of those conversations.
Yeah, and how does it now? You're actually...
especially walking outside. I come out of a toilet and people go, Kenny, how's your prostate? I said, I haven't got one. And the amount of men that you come out of a toilet, it's weird. That is weird. You walk out of a toilet in a restaurant and they collar you just as you're coming out. Yeah, I've got the same as you.
It's suspect out there, even if it's like via sort of Gabby's podcast or whatever. They know a lot more about you than they probably ever thought they would.
Yeah.
How does it impact? 'Cause obviously you're dealing with fame on, you know, both of you are, plus, you know, Terry was there before as well. So when now your son's coming into it, there's naturally a little bit more limelight on him. How does it handle? What do you just give him advice, or how do you? Because, you know, he's naturally everyone's going to be said, oh, you know, that's their son.
Yeah. He doesn't know any different.
Okay.
So when he was a 5-year-old, and I would finish playing rugby, and I was doing Strictly, for example.
So you thought you were a dancer?
Yeah, I thought I was a dancer.
Until he saw the TV.
A shit one. Right?
How are you on telly with this dancing dad?
So he saw me do that, and then he knew his mum was in TV. So I think he's not known anything different. He's known his mum and dad, or people who know his mum and dad.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's from, and then he knows what the responsibility is of that. He knows what it's like.
Yeah.
So and it's his journey, right? He's on his own path, and it's a hard path for a young sportsman. It's brutal for these young boys now. They're under a microscope. You know, social media, all the things. Everybody's got a comment. You know, you've got to be quite thick-skinned, and you will have vulnerable moments that we all do. And I would say we're a pretty tight family, so we look after each other. But his journey is exciting at the same time.
Did he have a turning point where he had to make a decision if he was going to go for rugby as opposed to something else, or was there any of those moments when he might not have?
He was a really good rower.
Okay.
When he was young, and he had he's got a good engine on him, and he could row, and he could shift the boat or the ergo, and he was good at that. But then when COVID came along, they stopped it. He was doing rugby and that, and then because he was in Wasps Academy could still meet twice a week because they were part of a professional pathway. Yeah. So he still got through COVID. We were still going to. I think it took a wee while, but they ended up training twice a week. Yeah. And then he'd always been playing at 15. He was playing under 18s because he was tall. Yeah. And so he always played 2 years up or a year up all the time. Yeah. So he went through a phase where he was at Wasps where he didn't enjoy it, and I said to him, right, and he was playing up, and I think it was because he was only 15. And he looked like a 16, 17-year-old because he's big and tall and big lad. And some of the kids were 18, 19, so the massive gap. And maybe the things they were saying or doing or whatever, he just didn't, he got a wee bit scared of it. Yeah. And then he was 15. I said, right, listen, don't do that. Let's just go back down to the under 16s and just play under 16s. Yeah. So he went back down and he's got his confidence back a little bit. And then he sort of realised that, and I think he always wanted to be a rugby player. Yeah. Yeah, he always definitely wanted to be a rugby player. But we all do, right? Yeah. Right. We all want to be a footballer or a rugby player or a TV star or a movie star. So, you know, and we don't always get there. Yeah. So that was the thing he always wanted to do. But I think he then went away back the second time. And he said, right, I'm ready to go back up. It's not as easy as that. They've got to ask you back up.
Yeah.
So the coach phoned me and said, you know, how's Ruben getting on? I said, he's doing all right. He's actually, just so you know, if you want to take him up, he's fine.
Yeah.
He's past that sort of. I think he was quite young. And he was a young 15-year-old, like, you know, he was under 16, like, he's not even 21 yet. He's not 21 till the end of July. So he's young in his years. So, and then the next time he went, and then I suppose the other thing that was hard for him, he'd been at Wasps all his life and been a Wasps fan through me, and then Wasps goes belly up, and then he becomes the sort of like, you play him for a team with a what was it, Midland Central or something like that, and then he's then trying to get another club. Then he went to Northampton, and then he left Northampton. That didn't really work out for him, but I think probably because a lot of things he maybe didn't get right, and he'd probably say that himself. But then he's gone to Sale. He's really enjoying Sale. It's a totally different environment. Northampton's a different city compared to Manchester. Manchester, you know, so he's enjoying the different things. He's just done his coaching badge. He's done a referee's badge. He's doing stuff that he wants to. He said, I want to do things that can give me more benefit, understanding the game. So, he's you know, as I say, it's his journey. We can give him enough. I mean, I'm not going to tell him how to play. He might speak to me in certain things, but he's got good coaches. Yeah. I just want to be his dad, right? Just enjoy and sometimes, you know, he will ask me things and I'll just say, you know, probably more mental things, maybe more than anything else.
We're still talking about your sex life, Dad. That kind of
does
stuff.
that.
He's like, geez, Dad,
He'll
what
come
have
in
you
and
done
say,
now? Mum, honestly.
Yeah, he does that. So I think it was at Northampton, or I can't remember what it was. They put the team meeting on, and the first thing was Gabby going, orgasms are good, are they not? Yeah, but he's fine with that. He's cool.
Right. So as we are at the Coachmakers Arms, we've
starving.
Yes, we've got some food. So Ben Tish is the chef director of the Cubic Group.
Here we go.
And he's got some food for us.
It is a toasty with haggis, Montgomery cheddar, caramelized onions, and and some smoked pickles on it. Yeah, it's delicious. I mean, we do.
Did you do this? We're allowed to try it, or is this?
This is.
It is
I
actually.
mean, we do.
It's not plastic.
It's not plastic. Yeah, we do toasties all around the group. Actually, I mean, they're obviously really popular.
Was that sourdough?
That's sourdough. Yeah.
This is my first ever haggis things.
It's a real thing, actually. It's a real thing. Yeah. It's the first time I made a haggis toasty. But
do you want one?
It's going to feature. I think. When appropriate. Yeah.
So, people always say to me, "What's in a haggis?" And I go, "All the rubbish on the floor."
Well,
so what's in a haggis?
It's very like it. You look
delicious.
Yeah. I mean, it's offal. It's a lot of offal, fat. There's often like kind of oats in it or bread to kind of bind it. But yeah, it's all the offally bits.
Well, you eat that because what's always good is Ben gives us a lot of rugby insight.
Because I'm such a knowledgeable about rugby. Yeah.
Ben's obviously, you predicted England to win and they've lost.
Yeah, so there you go. So that's good
stuff all the
start.
time.
Do you think we're going to be Ireland?
I'll say yes. I mean, like, I'm not. Yeah. What do you think?
I was with Phil Vickery and Lewis Moody doing a Q&A
I know
game.
Phil.
He's a very good chef.
Yeah.
They all thought Scotland would lose by 10 to 15.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're going to lose Scotland. Murrayfield's not an easy place. You haven't won here for a while. In fact, you've only won 5. You've lost the last 5 or 6, whatever it is. You've only won 1 out of the last 6.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going for Scotland win. He goes, all right, you're just doing your 5. I said, I think we'll win. I said, we might win by 4 or 5. I said, but I think we'll beat you. Anyway, obviously we won. That spoke to me since. But I did expect Ireland to come out. But I thought England would respond in the way that it would normally respond after losing the game like that.
Yeah. And they didn't. Yeah.
Do you so you had your own farm as well? So you actually bought a few acres separately, didn't you? So whilst you sold the family farm,
I bought some land in Buckinghamshire. It's 10 acres. We have horses and stuff.
Oh, nice. And you sold. You're selling that now. You still got it.
Selling it.
Sold.
Gone.
There you go. Too late. Did you keep chickens or something? Was it just horses? We
had chickens.
Yeah.
Got a lot of rats though. Used to get rats. We were feeding them
because of the chickens.
Mm.
Yeah.
My next one is building a veg. I like my garden.
Yeah,
Doing a lot of veg. I want to
grow some
grow
stuff.
stuff, and I like my salads. I like all that. I like sweet potatoes. I want to grow stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah,
It's just the time it takes as well.
It's
It's like we have a veg patch every single year, and it's actually just the time. Untangle everything. I just have this massive tomato plants and vines.
You've got to be consistent with it, and you've got to kind of really make it a project. Do you know what I mean? For it to work. You see,
It takes time, doesn't it?
Yeah, it takes time, but but it's good. It's good on many levels. It's not just growing stuff to eat. It's good to get out, and it's good. It's good mental space, gardening and tending and stuff like that.
I do that a lot sometimes. I've been in calls all day. I'll just go outside and do something for half an hour.
Yeah, because you can't look at your phone. You just got your head in that, haven't you? So
And when we moved, the house was all sort of like scrubbery in my head. I bought a dumper, a digger. Gabby's going, what are you buying that for? So this year I said I'm going to sell it. She went, you can't sell that. It's just so handy. No, I love the kit, and I like putting roads in, drains in.
Yeah.
Doing, building things. I love it.
Nice, yeah. It's good.
So this when this has come out like the week before so it's actually coming next week before the final round. Has the Six Nations been good for you in the hospitality trade? 'Cause it feels like hospitality trade needs a bit of a boost at the moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's been great. I mean, match days, and and I think just the general buzz. It's not just the days. It's there's a buzz around it. It always helps, particularly pubs drinking. It's good.
Six Nations transcends rugby. It's like
that's true.
Whenever I see certain groups using the figures for rugby's popularity, they quote Six Nations, but that's not the reality. It's like, but for whatever reason it captures everyone, whether they know about the sport or not. Everyone gets
that's
together.
not TV, right?
Yeah, it's
ITV and BBC. It's everywhere.
It's like FA Cup football, FA Cup, isn't it, or something big like that? It transcends the actual sport. Agreed.
Well, I recommend getting down here for that haggis.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah.
Well,
that's gonna feature.
I've done half of it.
Yeah.
Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure, Kenny. Thanks for sharing your story. Ben, thanks for the excellent food. This is haggis toasty, which is amazing. So please get down to Cuba House Group. And thanks a lot for your time, guys.
Thank you.
That's what.
Cheers.
Thank you.